So it's
All
all
right.
yours.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to mute you momentarily, and I welcome you to this call on March 30th, 2017, and we have some stuff we're going to go over tonight. I want to first read one of the testimonies that I've been encouraging, begging, suggesting that you send me. And I picked this one in particular because it didn't focus on weight loss. Now, one thing that you need to remember is you're talking to people about the 3Believe program. It is most popular to talk about the weight because that's something that's on everybody's mind. It's ever so present. Perhaps because 80 or 79.8% of our U.S. population are overweight. It's a huge number, more than any other physiological malady is our weight. And so that's why it's on our mind, and it's more visual. You don't look across the room and see someone having high cholesterol or high blood pressure. And so weight is wow, it's just a beacon of something to get the approval of others, especially when you watch movies and magazines and fashion. Boy, if we're not have that slim body, then it's got to be something wrong, right? And that's why it's so ever present. But the 3Believe program is really about a wellness of life. Weight is one of those elements, but there's a lot more to it than that. So I wanted to pick this one. I won't give the name, but you might know who she is. It's a woman, and I now quote from her testimony. As a 50-year-old with fibromyalgia, I grew to 316.8 pounds, lost so much muscle strength that I struggled even getting up from a dining chair, and had an ankle that had lost all integrity. I was looking at life in a wheelchair within 5 years. I also have digestive issues with symptoms of IBS, nausea, whenever I ate anything, and stomach cramps ruled my life. I had been so bad for so long I cannot remember what it feels like not to be in pain, lethargic and struggling just to complete daily tasks. Within 2 weeks, I have lost 17 pounds without exercise and have finally broke the 300-pound barrier, never to return. My digestive issues have disappeared completely. I can feel my muscles getting stronger, and the pain in my ankle has lessened to the point where I can now start to walk for exercise. I can honestly say I have not been hungry, and I finally feel like my body is getting what it needs. I have searched for decades, studying everything I could lay my hands on, seeing every specialist I could find. I was told that 3Believe would change my life, but I joined with equal amounts of skepticism and desperation. You know, I've read this this letter a few times, and I still get goosebumps as I read it. Can you imagine the torment that this poor woman was under, and the relief that she received? And I return. I was told that 3Believe would change my life, but I joined with equal amounts of skepticism and desperation. For the first time, I feel like I'm getting me back. I feel stronger, healthier, and happier. It is certainly a total game changer, and day by day has given me a brighter future. Thank you. What a wonderful testimony. They're meant not to sell people. They're meant to encourage. They're meant to inspire us. And what a wonderful one, and I thank you for sending that. And yours doesn't have to be fantastic. It doesn't have to quote wonderful pound loss. Anything. It could be sleep. It could be just feeling more energetic. Because I promise you this, in my years of experience of doing this, which has been 9 years now, I have learned that there's a testimony just waiting to find its home in somebody's heart, someone's life. And that is what I believe our obligation. Whenever we receive a great blessing, a great benefit in our lives, I feel that it's an obligation for us to share it. Now that may just be my view, but I don't think it's a bad one. In fact, it's what inspired me to start this company. So I encourage you to maybe adopt the same thing. So I want to go over a couple of things. First, I have come across some issues of question, and so let's go over them again. Just to remind some of you that are new to this call, I thank you. My name is Jason Whitney. I'm a food scientist with an emphasis in the treatment of metabolic syndrome. What that means is that it doesn't matter who you know, who you love, or who you meet. As long as they're living, breathing, and live in the United States, they have one of the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And at least they have an 80% chance of having one of the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And I will remind you that the CDC has notified us that 66% of all the deaths that occur in the United States every year are directly linked to one of the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And here they are: being overweight or obese, having high blood pressure, high cholesterol, elevated glucose levels, or a fatty liver. Those are the elements of metabolic syndrome. Now, it is what the CDC calls an epidemic, meaning a large enough people or number of people have these symptoms and growing at an accelerated rate that they call it an epidemic. That's terrible. You know what's more amazing is that science has identified that it can be completely eradicated out of your life, out of your friend's life, off the face of the earth in as little as 12 weeks. 12 weeks, or at least what causes it in 12 weeks. Now, in 12 weeks, you may not be able to lose 150 pounds. That's not going to happen. It's going to take a little bit more time. But more importantly, what the 3Believe program focuses on is what science has identified is the causes of metabolic syndrome. You see, it doesn't matter why or what the symptom is. Well, you can take medication and lower your blood pressure. You can take medication and lower cholesterol or get your blood sugar levels in line. But what about the cause of that? What was it that made us get excess weight on our body? Why did our liver get fatty in the first place? Where did that energy go that we had just 10, 20, 30 years ago? Is it just because of age? Science says that that's not the case. It's because we've been in a state of being for an extended period of time. That means we have a fatty liver for 20 years. That's why we feel crappy. That's why we can't lose the weight that we have. It's the symptoms of metabolic syndrome that we have to get rid of. That according to all the other diets on earth, they focus on the symptoms. That's what they proclaim. That's what they're yelling and screaming about. Pay me the money and I'll get rid of the symptoms. Only to have those symptoms return as soon as you stop the diet. Well, that's not a solution. That's a Band-Aid. And as the wise and illustrious Taylor Swift says in one of her songs, Band-Aids don't heal bullet wounds. Yes, I listen to some modern music. Does that make me hip because I know the words of some of these Taylor Swift songs? So what our program is focusing on what causes metabolic syndrome. And so in this example, this testimony, what did she talk about? She talked about nausea. She talked about symptoms of IBS. She talked about digestive issues of having a stomach ache. She talked about an ankle being so weak and stiff that she couldn't walk on it, feel like it would give away at any time. She talked about being lethargic and not having energy, and also the drive to even get up and walk around. Let's see, what else did she talk about? Those are all things that have nothing to do with weight. Now, weight was one of them, absolutely. And I'm sure she's glad about it, but she's equally glad about all the other issues. And that's what 3Believe is really all about, is identifying and overcoming those issues. Is it a cure-all for everything? It is not. Let me be the first one to tell you, this is not going to cure everything you have. In fact, I'll be so bold to say it's not going to cure anything. it can alleviate the symptoms that you're feeling. Now, as I've taught you and encouraged you and even pleaded with you, don't use the cure word. We'll just get in trouble over doing it, and we'll build up expectations of people that that are not fair. Just let them take the program. Let them follow it and let them discover them for themselves. I assure you that after even 2 weeks, that they will report back to you that they've noticed something. In fact, over 9 years and literally thousands of patients, not one person has reported coming back saying, I didn't notice any difference. I didn't notice any improvement. There's always been something. And so this is nothing new. We didn't just discover this. In fact, we didn't even invent it. We combed through over 600 clinical studies. I personally read 600 of those clinical studies myself to come up with the formula that you drink on a daily basis, the foods that you eat that we call smart foods. Smart enough to taste delicious and wise enough not to give you to contribute to the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. You can literally have your bread and eat it too, or your cake, or your chocolate, or your pot pie, however your case may be. So let's talk for just a second about the P22 in your CMR. That's the powder shake that you're taking. The P6 and the P3. So why did I give you on the website? I give you the idea to get your starter kit comes with Pro 22 and also your P6, and then in phase 4 you have either it doesn't say that it's a P6 or P3, but it actually is a P22 is the formula that's in that. You can in fact get any formula that you request. So I want you to feel free that you can get a P22, a P6, P3. You can get it in chocolate and vanilla, whatever you like. You can ask for pina colada. I'm not going to send it to you because we don't make that. I give you extracts for those extra flavors. And we have over 50 of them. And if you haven't tried them, I suggest that you do. In fact, I had a flavor last night that was delicious. I had our chocolate. I put our peanut butter in it, and I put a little bit of banana flavor, and I added some of the Bavarian cream to it. Oh my, was that heavenly. Being here in Salt Lake City, I swear I heard the Tabernacle Choir singing in the background as I drank it. It was marvelous. So what is the reason why we have the different flavors? It's not to confuse you. It is so that I can ensure that you are not losing muscle mass, which is the reason why I made you get the scales when you sign up as a sales rep. But remember, if you enroll 4 people in your first 30 days, which is easy to do if you just talk with them, I'll credit you the full 95 in any of the smart foods. So I'm paying for it. That's how strongly I feel that you need that. But I want you to measure your muscle mass, and that will tell us what kind of the formulas to give you. In fact, here's a simple test. I want you to go to the lowest one. My goal is to get you to the P3. Why? Because if you're at a higher ratio or a higher protein count, you're going to put more stress on your liver and your kidneys than they need to. Whenever your body breaks down an amino acid, one of the side effects that it does is it creates an ammonia and it creates nitrogen. That's just extra work for your liver to have to pull that out of your bloodstream to eliminate it, because those are toxins. Those are just things that your body doesn't want to have. And so if you're getting more protein than you need, it's more work than your body should have to go through. So then why do I give you the higher proteins? Because I also don't want you to lose muscle mass, because that's puts you into a catabolic state. Catabolic meaning cannibal, eating, your body's eating its own muscle tissue because it doesn't have enough amino acids. And so you've seen that in people's physiology. If you see a very active long-distance runner, you'll see that their legs are very defined and toned and strong, but their arms and their face, their chest are gaunt, and there's very little muscle tissue. The reason why is because your body went catabolic and stole muscle from the arms to feed the legs because they did not give themselves sufficient amount of amino acids. Especially remember during the Olympics when they do that the oval track of the ice skating, and to demonstrate how non-discriminatory your body is when it's looking for muscle tissue or amino acids, one leg, not even both legs, but one leg will even be larger than the other leg because they all skate in the same circle, the same direction, and it just puts a little bit more tension on that inside leg of that oval circle. So I don't want you to deal with losing muscle tissue. That's one of the benefits of our program, is every other diet out there suffers from the fact that they brag about the pounds that they lose, but what they're actually bragging about is water weight loss. So you're becoming dehydrated and you're losing muscle tissue, not to mention bone density. Well, those aren't healthy things. What kind of diet is that? That's terrible. And the weight that you're losing is fat tissue. And so that's why I give you that scale. And so I want you to just in your mind automatically think, Jason wants me to go to the P3 as fast as possible and stay there. Unless your muscle tissue on the scale tells you you're losing muscle tissue. Now, don't jump the gun. If it goes down a little bit in 1 week, I want it to go down for 4 weeks in a row. That means that it's going catabolic. Now, you won't lose a lot. You'll just lose a little bit. Now, remember, 70-80% of your muscle tissue is hydration. So if you're down on your hydration, it's going to show that your muscle reading on that scale is going to be down a little bit. That's why I don't want you to jump the gun and just automatically order a Pro 22 after 1 week's reading. You won't lose a substantial, dangerous amount in a month, all right? Oh, unless you don't eat any protein at all for 30 days, but that's not the case. So that's a simple rule that I use to tell my clients why to use a Pro 22 or a P6 or a P3. So hopefully that answers some questions. I encourage you all, because there are things that get in the way, life gets in the way, to get on the auto delivery. Get that taken care of for a couple of reasons. One, you do not want to go a day without your nourishment. You know how it feels. You know what benefits it gives to you. And your body can only create miracles with the building blocks that you supply it. So get on the auto delivery. Another reason why is that'll ensure that your paid commissions will come through. You'll qualify for your paid commissions. It only needs to be 135. That's phase 4. You're only 1 meal a day. You're spending that much somewhere else anyway. So stop eating the foods that got you to be the state of unhealthiness, and just use that money and buy the healthy solution, and you'll be able to afford it, and you'll be able to be nourished at the same time. Plus, if you share the message a little bit, you'll be able to receive some financial assistance in the form of profit. So that's not so bad. So I wanted to talk to you about something that's been kind of dear to my heart. I'm going to go off on a tangent just for a little bit, and this tangent is something that's helped me. This is an exercise of me sharing a little bit about me. There's an idea of 2 skills to master when we want to acquire an extraordinary life. We all want to have an extraordinary life. We all want to be absolutely happy, right? Well, there's 2 areas that define that. One is the science of achievement. The other is the art of fulfillment. And we're going to talk about the art of fulfillment tonight. We'll talk about the science of achievement another time. So everyone is fulfilled in our lives by different things. You can be in love with someone, but each of you can have a different definition of what fulfillment means to each of you. There are two elemental elements, two elemental things that are required to be fulfilled. One is an absolute with fulfillment is the progress equals happiness. And let me say that again. To be fulfilled in your life, that will equate to progress equals happiness. To be happy, you have to progress. Now, granted, progress can be in different forms and mean different things to different people. For example, if you're overweight and that isn't where you want to be, and if you're losing weight, then you know that you're progressing. Then that is a form of fulfillment. You're being fulfilled. Now, it doesn't matter that you weigh right now exactly what you want, but the fact that you're progressing, you're getting closer to it. Now, thankfully, with 3Believe, we have a program, we have a system that they'll make sure that you're losing the right kind of weight, like I talked about earlier, which is fat, instead of the muscle and the hydration. But there's other forms of fulfillment. Maybe that you need fulfillment in finances. And fortunately, we have a plan for that as well. But the same is true in relationships. As long as we're making progress in our relationship, whether you're a parent, whether you're a spouse, whether you're a friend, or whether you're just in your neighborhood with our fellow man or stranger, sometimes as long as we're making progress in those relationships, in those actions, we're being fulfilled. Sometimes those can be measured in days, just that we progressed better today than we are yesterday, and sometimes can be measured in minutes. So we are in the act of progress for one reason, and that is so that we can give to others, the people that we love, the people that we care about. Every act that we are in is in the service of giving. That's why we want to be fulfilled. So that's why we'll do things for someone that we love more than we will do for ourselves. That's why we'll do things that we would never think to do for us. We'll do it for our loved ones. That also means a healthier life. It means more financial success. It means a greater love. So if you want to have a more fulfilling life, then you need to find out what is it that's getting in your way. And that's what I'm going to share with you. Is how do we identify the things that are getting in our way? And it's what is called as emotional patterns of suffering. The reason why you and I are not fulfilling our measure in the business, and the measure in our love life, and the measure of our health, measure in our work, and the measure of anything, if we do not feel fulfilled, it's because we're engaging in emotional patterns of suffering. Things like stress, worry, anger, fearfulness, being sad. It doesn't matter. You need to all understand that we all have a pattern of doing these things at some point. So you're not broken when you feel these things. There's nothing wrong with you, but it's a state that you don't need to be in because it's not healthy. It's not progression. Definitely not progression for fulfillment. You're just not feeling, having that fulfilled feeling when you're letting those feelings get in your way of progress. Now, as modern as we are with all these devices, I'm talking to you here on this webinar to people literally on the other side of the world. There's one thing that's absolutely amazing, that we're dealing with this brain that is 2 million years old. And so it doesn't matter how modern we are, we still are, we go back to our basis of how we are created. And our brain is not concerned about how fulfilled we are. What it's concerned about is survival. So your brain doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about keeping you alive. So let's do a little bit of an exercise. Let's go through this with me. It'll only take a couple of minutes, all right? So I want you to look around in the room that you're at. Just look around, and I want you to look for everything that's brown in the room. I want you to look up and look down, look behind you. You can even look on your person and look for everything. Don't miss anything. Look around, right? Now, I want you to close your eyes. No cheating, okay? I want you to close your eyes, and I want you now to think about everything that's red. Yeah, I pulled a quick one on you. How many things did you see that are red? Now open up your eyes and look around. Isn't it amazing the things that are red that you didn't notice when you're looking for the things that were brown? Why did that happen? Why are the things popping up? It happens every time you buy a car. You look at a car and you buy it a certain color of that model or even the color, and you suddenly are driving around in that color and you go, did everybody buy the same color of car all of a sudden the same time as me? No, it's because you weren't looking for it before. It was always there. You just did not notice it. And why is that? Because we get what we look for. Some like to say it as this: seek and ye shall find. Now let's prove that very principle. You'll find things that are not really there. You and I will look just to be successful. We'll look for things to prove our success. How many of you, I want you to be honest, as you are looking around, found beige stuff and called it brown just to be successful in our little exercise that we had? I want you to raise your hand, all right? Be honest. How many saw burgundy or pink and called it red just so that you can be successful? And the second part of that exercise, the truth is, if you think that you're messed up, you're going to create reasons of how and look for proof that you are in your life. If you think that people won't believe you or trust you when you tell them about 3Believe, if you think that your boss will not see your value as an employee, then that's what you're going to look for, every sign that to prove that you are right. That's your brain's job, to have you survive. The same is true if you're thinking that you're great. You're going to look for proof that you are. If you want to free yourself of these emotional patterns of suffering, let me show you a little exercise that has helped me and, well, to be honest, millions of other people over the last, say, 1,000 years or so. If you want to end your suffering right now, then you have to come to a place of a decision, which is the most important decision, could be the most important decision that you've ever made. And the decision is this: I want you to say or think that you agree, you decide that you're going to be in a beautiful state of being every day. No matter what. No matter what's occurring, that's your decision. Even when things don't go your way, even when there's suffering and injustice in the world, even when people are unfair to you, because the fact is that there is injustice and people will and have treated you unfairly in this world. Isn't that true? It happens all the time. Is it possible that you may even be unjust or unfair to other people? Yeah. If we're being honest, it's happened. You need to come to terms with the absolute fact that if people have to behave a certain way for you to be happy, then you are absolutely guaranteeing that you're not going to be happy, because people are not going to behave the way that you want them to all the time. And for some people, any of the time. And so why do you set yourself up for that kind of lacking of success? When I first started being in business 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago now, I thought that part of my success is having all my employees do what they're supposed to do every day, every hour. I had hundreds of employees. What are the chances that in any given minute, at least one of my employees isn't going to do things the way I want them to do or the way I taught them to? Isn't it like close to 100%? What are the odds of that happening? Like 100%. And then in that moment, I would lose my happiness and I would replace it with anger or disappointment or sad, or I'm confused of why they did that silly thing, or any other emotional pattern of suffering that I could come up with. Now, I have learned a better way. As soon as I feel this pattern of pain and suffering emerging, I kill it while it's small. You see, in our mind, we create these gigantic monsters that go and eat everything in its path, and what it feeds on is our happiness and peace and absence of stress. So if you get rid of it when it's small, then it's a lot easier for you to rid it out of your life. So here's the secret of how to perform this magic trick. First, you have to decide and agree that you'll be honest with yourself and identify what your favorite flavor of suffering is. All of us have a favorite. Christians have this belief. We believe that if we're truly converted to Christ's teaching, we'll give our lives to him. That includes giving up our sins and following his principles. Now, Christ doesn't want our smallest sin. He doesn't want the sin of me going, I eat too much dessert at dinner. It's not good for my body, right? Our bodies are a temple. We're supposed to honor it. He doesn't want that one. He wants our biggest. He wants our favorite sin. That's what he wants to give. And that's what I'm asking you to do. I want you to give up your favorite emotional pattern of suffering. Now, maybe it's anger, or it's boredom, or selfishness. So I ask you, what is yours? Just think about it for a moment. Is it worry, fear, revenge? How about inaction, not doing anything? I want you to notice that when you fall into this pattern that you've had, which is your favorite, it literally sucks the life out of you. It sucks the joy, it sucks your humor, it sucks your creativity right out of your mind. That is why it seems, even to yourself and to others, that your personality changes in this moment like you're a different person. Sometimes we call it by being bipolar. We invent these mental conditions to match these feelings, these robbers of our joy. Okay, so it's weird that our mind will create these things, and it creates the stress. I recall that when I recently went to China, I told you I did some work in China as a formulator, and when I was preparing to leave, the closer I got to the airport, I could feel my stress climbing and getting greater. This little monster was getting bigger. And I knew that I had to sit in this chair for 15 hours all the way to China and not be able to text or use the internet. I couldn't get any work done. Now, honestly, how stressful is it for a person just to sit? I mean, seriously, there shouldn't be a lot of stress attached to that. But that's what my mind created. That's what I was looking for. The things I couldn't do, the things I couldn't engage in, okay? And so when I got on the plane, we all got settled in. Over the speaker, we all heard, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to announce for the first time ever, international internet while we're in the air." The entire plane erupted in applause. It was as if God had entered the plane and people were cheering and clapping. I'm sure I even heard some crying tears of joy. People were saying, "I have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. This is amazing. Life is good again." Now, I admit I wanted to yell and give a robust fist pump up in the air of my approval, but I had to keep cool. I mean, I am a food scientist, so, I got to have a certain air about me. But after we're in the air, they allowed us to log on. It was about 15 minutes and the internet completely stopped working. And it never came back on the rest of the 14 and a half hours of the flight. What do you think the comments were then? People were complaining. They were angry. How can they do this? They have no right. I'm never flying on this airline again. Somebody said that the president of the company should be fired. Now, just 15 minutes before, it was a miracle, but now it was an expectation, a right that they had to receive. Please allow me to give you some of the wisest words that I've ever heard. And if you haven't heard of anything else that I've said tonight, stop what you're doing and hear this. If you want your life to change for the better, if you want a life of excellence and an extraordinary life, if you want to feel fulfilled, then trade your expectations for appreciation. And the very moment you do that, your life will change in an instant. Exchange what you expect, what you feel entitled to, for an appreciation for what you've had and what you have, and everything changes. The math is completely different. Let me share a mental exercise with you that'll help you get into that state. How many of you have unfinished business in your life? It's stressful, but you've been putting it off, and you don't want to think about it. It could be in your business. It could be someone that you've been meaning to talk to about 3Believe, but you haven't. It could be in your relationship. It could be in your neighbor or your family. It could be anybody. Maybe it's the girl down at the Dairy Queen that gave you a smaller ice cream cone than you expected, or that expectation again, to receive, and you came a little unglued on her. And you know that you should apologize, but haven't yet. I mean, she's 15 years old after all, and you're a grown adult. What do you owe her? Can you think about anyone specifically? Now just think about it, okay? So think about one, and if you can't think of one, that's okay. You probably lie about other things too. We'll talk about that later. So now think about that thing, and I want you to put a number to it. Now, a number of stress, a level of stress from 0 to 10, number that. Now I'm hoping that that thing is at least a 7 on the stress and pain level of how you know you need to get that resolved, because it just keeps on creeping up. So now, you know me, being a food scientist, I read studies all the time. Here's a study for you. Studies have shown what happens when we get stressed. When our life begins as a human being, our hearts begin to beat. Not when we're outside the womb, when we're still being created. When our heart beats, we don't even have brain function yet. And yet the heart beats on. Now, how is that? How is that possible? The only explanation that science can give us is that the heart has its own intelligence. Now, you hear me talk about our body intelligence as part of the 3Believe diet program. When we get thoughts in our brain, there can be thoughts that can save us or thoughts that can kill us. Thoughts can make us alive or render us dead. Our minds get stressed out. Our hearts do not. The doctors, these doctors that discovered this, were awarded the Nobel Prize in medicine for learning that when we focus on our heart, we can literally change our stress level. They found that when you place your hands on your heart, matter of fact, do that now. If you would you just stand up for a second? We've been sitting for 40 minutes now, so stand up. No one's around, and if it's your family, don't worry, they think you're crazy anyway. So just stand up, kind of, get loose, stretch your neck a little bit, and I want you to take your hand and put it on your heart, okay? Now, those of you that are forgotten, because we don't pledge allegiance to the flag anymore in school. Yeesh. It's the heart's over here on the left side, okay? So now put your hand, both hands, one over the other, on your heart. They found that by doing that, and you breathe deep. Now go ahead and breathe deep, but breathe deep in your mind of your heart breathing deep. They said that when you focused on your heart and you breathe deep, it's the most powerful destroyer in our life, by the way, is anger and fear. That's what gets us in the most trouble, right? So I want you to close your eyes, your hands on your chest, breathe deep, breathe with your heart, and focus on gratitude. Okay? Now, I want you to pick 3 things in your life that you're grateful for. You see, gratitude cannot occupy the same space as fear and anger. It can't be done. Just like mass cannot occupy the same space in the precise same moment, same space simultaneously, neither can fear and anger occupy, which are the greatest destroyers of joy. They can't occupy the space of gratitude. Now, research teaches us that when we focus on things, where we focus, that's where energy flows. So your body energy will flow there. So focus on this gratitude, and no matter how desperate your current situation is, you have things to be grateful for. If you're sitting sleeping in your car and you're listening to this on the telephone, be grateful that you have a phone to hear this message. Be grateful that you have a car. Be grateful, and the list can go on, that you have ears to hear and fingers to push the button to be able to make this call. There are so many things for us to be grateful for, right? So think about any one of those things. You see, when we measure the brain, we call that an EEG. And when we measure the heart, it's called an EKG. And if we put your brain and your heart on before this exercise, the brain's doing one thing, sharp, jagged edges, peaks and valleys, and your heart's doing the same thing. But the study found, that they won this Nobel Prize for, is that when you thought and focused for just 2 minutes, with your hands on your heart, and you focused on 3 things that you are grateful for, your brain waves and your heart start to go in sync. They form round waves of a pattern, and they go in sync with one another. They become one. Now your heart beats 100,000 times a day. You don't even have to think about that beating of the heart, and yet it happens for you. Think about your heart as truly a gift. Without it, you could not live. Someone gave you that gift. It could be your parents. It could be the grandparents that gave them theirs, that gave you theirs. It could be your creator. It could be the universe, whatever you like to call it, that gave you that perfect organ. And so without your heart, you would cease to be. You'd cease to exist. It was the first organ of intelligence in your body. So I want you to think about the first moment, the first thing that you're grateful for. Maybe it was the birth of your child, or your marriage, or a truth. Maybe it was a liberation of something, or the gaining of something. Be there. Think in that moment what it was like. What year was it? What season was it? Was it cold or warm outside? Now think about the second, because I know you have at least 3. Think about the joy that it's given you. Think about how you've been able to help other people because of that second gift, lessons of wisdom, okay? Then think about the third one, whatever it might be. They found that by doing this for just 2 minutes, that the study found that your stress levels are in over 90% of the cases were completely gone. They didn't exist anymore. And then if you ask, what do I need to do to get rid of this stress? The answer will come to you. So if you do that now, if you think about that big stress thing, that thing that I mentioned that was left undone, if you think about that, 90% of you will get an answer of what you need to do. Maybe it's an apology. Maybe it's you need to ask them for a favor. Whatever it is, your heart knows the answer to it. So back to that little monster and that big monster. In the beginning of that stress, if you do this exercise, take the time to do it. You won't even have to do it for 2 minutes, and your stress will be immediately gone. That's how you control the stress. So why do I go through this exercise? I do it for a couple of reasons. One is this. Your body's ability to burn stored fat, your body's ability to lower the levels of cortisol, which is an enemy of fat burning, greatly increases the higher levels of stress that you have. You created them in your mind. It was not your body that did it. It was your thinking. I sometimes like to call it stinking thinking. So stop your stinking thinking. Think about the gratitude and think about how you can have your life fulfilled. Figure out those things. Do the same exercise and you'll learn the things that are keeping you from a fulfilling life. Maybe it's you're eating the wrong kind of foods. Because if you're like most Americans, at least 80% of you, you are eating the wrong kind of foods and you're eating too many of them. So reduce that, get it back in order, and you'll have a more fulfilling life. Think about why you're eating them. If you find that you're a binge eater, if you find yourself saying, no, I can't resist that chocolate when I go to a birthday party, or those chips when I go to a football game, those nachos or that soda pop, think about the gratitude that you have in the absence of the way that it makes you feel. That's what's getting in your way. Exchange one for the other. Remember, fear and anger are an enemy, or the opposites of the gratitude. So don't be angry with yourself. Don't self-hate yourself. And think about these things. I want your body to be in a better place because I need it there for you to receive the full benefits of the formula that I've made. Your body knows this intelligence. So that's one reason why I went through this exercise. I want you have to be in that state. The other reason I want you to be in it is because I want you to benefit financially from what we've created here. There are some here that have already earned enough money to pay for a phase 1 for the next year every month already. Now that's a great blessing. That's something to be grateful for. Now, you may not have received that, but be grateful for the fact that they did, and that proves one absolute fact, that if they did it, so can you. This woman here with fibromyalgia, if she got those benefits, if you followed the same exercise of gratitude that she did, you'll receive similar results. It's an absolute. So those are the lessons, if you will, that I ask you to engage in. Don't be afraid to call someone, because fear cannot occupy the same space as gratitude. Replace it with gratitude. Be grateful that you have something to talk to them about that's actually worthwhile. Share it. I promise you, the greatest blessings that you'll get is in giving, which is where we started in this first place. We want to be fulfilled. We want to have progress for the whole purpose of giving. And that's exactly the reason why I started this business. I did not do it for money. In fact, honestly, telling you, we've been in business for 9 years now. The first 6 years of that, we were not profitable. I did not do it for money. I did it because I received this gift of information, and I have an obligation to share it. I got much more fulfillment by sharing it and hearing this kind of message that I just read with you tonight than I'll ever get from a stack of $100 bills. And that's the truth. So I want you to share in that too. Share. In primary, we were taught a little song, and it had the words of sharing is caring. Those words definitely apply. So I'm going to turn on the microphone for a second. And before I do that, I'm just reminded, some of you may ask, why is the Pro 6 and the P3, I keep calling it the Pro 6, that's the other name, the new name is the P3, the P6. Why are they the same price when they have a different value of protein? There's less protein in there, so it shouldn't have cost less. You're exactly correct. It should, if all the other ingredients that I provide in there were for free, or the price per gram for the other ingredients were less expensive than the protein. Now, protein, depending on what kind you can get regular protein or soy even for about $1.50 a kilo or a pound. And New Zealand whey, which is what I prefer, cleanest one on earth, comes in at about $13 a kilo. And so there's a big price difference. But in spite of that, I have ingredients, as I've told you before. I have 78 ingredients in this mix. 78. Protein is one of them. So by reducing that, the cost differential is I have digestive enzymes that are different in the Pro 3 than are in the Pro 6, and different in the P22. I have to make that difference so that it balances out the other macro and micro nutrients that I'm giving you, the other 78 or 77 ingredients that are in there. For example, on average, my enzymes that I give you, the enzyme spread that I increase in the P3 over the P6, cost a little over $200 a kilo, and my protein's coming in at 14. And so that's one reason why the price is the same. The profit, I'll be honest with you, is different. It's not as great, but it's within, a few cents, and so I don't charge more for it. We just eat that. And so that's one reason why. And if you have these kind of questions, don't be bashful. I'm not going to pick on you. Send an email in. I want to be completely transparent in the formula, the things that I'm having you take in your body. And so that's a very reasonable expectation that you can have, is that your answers will be answered without any prejudice. So now I'm going to turn it on, and let's see if we have 3 questions. If anybody's out there. All right, anybody?
Yeah, Jason, this is Merv. I might make some comment about the essential oils, where kind of where we are with essential oils and when they might be available and that type of thing, if you would.
Okay, so you've heard me talk about some of the other products that I have. And I've teased you a little bit. I have a lot of really cool products. In fact, some that I have not even been launched with my other company, ones that I sell to the doctors and physicians. Merv is talking about the essential oils, and he's talking about, I mentioned to you guys that the pet food line, which I'm really excited about as well. Well, when will you get those? Well, those will be in place when we have a solid foundation. What defines a solid foundation? Excuse me, I'm still finalizing all of the labels. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of work to take a piece of paper, like I have in the back here, and make a label. You know, you put some words up there, and you put a graphic on there, and you call it a label. But when you have 60 of them, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I can't begin to tell you how much work goes in to making sure that everything is exactly right, especially when you're dealing with nutritionals. And so as we're changing all of that labeling, getting it all right, I got to make sure the packaging's right. I got to make sure that the shipping's running smoothly. I got to give you the tools in the back office. And so when I say foundational things, when I have a good base, that's what I mean. So when the labels are done, and when your back office, you have a good foundation of the elements that you need, marketing tools, I want to make sure that I've teased you also about marketing tools that I'll have for you to make it easier for you to spread this, the good news that you've learned about. I'm going to honor that. I'm working on all these things. Those things I feel are more important than bringing on a brand new product. Because if you don't have the tools to talk about it, and brochures and handouts and things that you can hand someone or email someone, then what good would a new product do for us? So they are coming. I'm not backing out of having that. We will have it, but that's the reason why you haven't heard about a new release. Next question.
Any other questions, anyone? Anybody?
Yeah, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Bob Price here. The magazine or the information sheet that you put out last week, is that going to come out here, or do you know a time frame that it might be coming out? That was on a lot of your different products.
Yes. To answer that, thanks, Bob. What he's talking about, in case those that didn't attend last week, I had a document. I'm kind of looking on my desk here if I have it, a copy, so I can show you. It talked about the benefits of all the ingredients. I made reference that I have 78 ingredients in the CMR, most complex meal replacement on Earth so far. And I talked about some of the magic ingredients and the scientific studies, the backing, the proof of why it was so amazing, why it does the amazing things that it does, like this woman that gives her testimony, how that's even possible to have those things be occurred or be occurring. And it's a long document. And the reason why is I wanted to make it easier for you to read by putting in a better index. And so I made those changes. I sent it off to editing. And that's one thing, an example of why it takes so long is making sure it's edited and it's a useful tool. That will be out to you though. I just got back the first draft of editing. I had to correct a couple of things and send it back to them. You'll have that next week. And that will be posted on the website that you can download as a document, or you can forward it to someone so in case they're not in your proximity. So you can plan on that being next week. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you.
Come on, I know you got at least one more.
Any more questions, anyone?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, my question is, can we mix the P6 and the P22 without a problem? If we're, say we're taking 2 shakes a day and 1 meal a day.
Sure. Okay. So the question that she's asking is, some of you, as you change from one formula, the P22 to the P6 or the P3 or back, can you, let's say you've received the bag, and as a general, I tell you, when you first start, you're going to be on the P22 for 2 weeks, and then I change you to the P6. Well, what if you get the P6 and you have it in your possession, and it's been 2 weeks, but you still have some of the P22 left over? Is it appropriate? Is it healthy? Does it work if you go ahead and switch early? You can. Or maybe a better question is it appropriate for you to continue and finish up on the P22 or the bag that you have? And the answer is absolutely. Your body is not that sensitive to those macronutrients that it's gonna throw a wrench into the plan. In fact, if you want, you can mix them together until you just mix the rest of the P22 into the P6 or the other formula, and that would be very adequate. There's nothing in there that's going to be a contraindication or retard your progress. So in fact, we have people all the time they'll take 1 scoop of the chocolate and 1 scoop of the vanilla and mix them together. Try that, in fact, and it'll give it a unique flavor. So good question. I think that's about it. Matter of fact, as I look at the clock, it's exactly 7:59, Merv.
I have one more question, and that's, is any of them in lower carbs? Is the P3 or the P6 lower carbs than the P22?
Okay, so the question is about the carbohydrate level. As you know, our goal is to lower the levels of carbohydrates. To tell you the truth, that's really not my goal. I know that's what you've heard, but it's simpler language, and so that's common language. What I'm really trying to accomplish is lower your levels of insulin. That's really where the magic happens, is I'm displacing insulin in your body with glucagon. Those are 2 hormones that your pancreas secretes. In the absence of insulin, your body automatically starts secreting glucagon. Glucagon is a master hormone that tells your body to be in fat burning mode, but not just for fat, it also lowers inflammation for if you're having pain. That's why this woman pain level reduced, because her insulin levels went down. That's why her ankle was not hurting so bad. That's another reason why her fibromyalgia pain reduced, because fibromyalgia, though we don't know everything about it, it's definitely an inflammational problem. And so she asked, is the carb count in all the formulas the same? Is one lower than the other? So will I lose weight faster or get better results with the other one as far as carbohydrates and insulin is concerned? No, they're all the same. They're the same level, so take them interchangeably. It doesn't matter when we're talking about the levels of insulin. The only difference between them is the amount of protein and the blend of enzymes to meet the protein value that I'm giving you. That's the only reason I changed the enzyme formula, is to meet the needs of the amino acids that I'm giving you. Hopefully that answered everybody's question. I thank you again, once again. You gave me an hour of your time. I am grateful for it. And I share a wonderful good night. Thank you all very, very much. Continue to send your questions. And again, I make a plea for your testimony. Send it. I would love to receive it. And we will, with your permission, post them on the website. If you don't want your name on it, then we'll post it without your name. Thank you again, and good night. God bless you all.
Good night. God bless you all. Good night, everybody.
Night.